everybody. Um, Today I want to talk about something that I have observed and I find very interesting, which is the Jeremy Allen White effect. It's kind of like my interpretation of it. And it's the Jeremy Allen White effect because it's about Jeremy Allen White, which is a guy in Hollywood um, that became recently from like a somewhat famous level to very famous level because of his I think it was a show The Bear that made him really famous. Actually, I'm not familiar with his shows that much, and because of his um, shoot with Calvin Klein, he's a Calvin Klein model now. And the Jeremy Allen White effect is something where a person is so Jeremy Allen White, when you look at his old pictures, he's like a very average looking dude, and then in the Kevin Klein stuff, he looks like a absolute Greek god Adonis type guy, right? And the difference between those days and now, the real only difference is his body fat. Dude is now lean as hell, and he used to not be lean at all. I mean, no, that's not. That's the thing. He used to be somewhat lean. He was never fat. I think you could consider it skinny fat or something, but he was never fat at all. He had like a bit of a layer of fat, maybe. I'm gonna say anywhere between 13 and 18% body fat. Nothing major. Probably leaner than the average male, or as lean as the average male. I don't know, but I would say leaner. But he got down to probably 9%, 10% for the Kevin Klein shoot. Um, Definitely not above 10%, I would say. So I would say probably 9% body fat. And his facial structure changed to a degree that is astonishing. Um, where and that's what I call the Jeremy Allen White effect. Is this guy only looks extremely good and not average when he's extremely low body fat. And I think that's very interesting because some of you might be suffering from the Jeremy Allen White effect as well, is where you, in order for you to really flourish and you're really looking your absolute best, you have to get down to these body digits, to these numbers, to these 9% body fat. The thing is, some people, in fact, a lot of people, can look good without going that low. I think they range from anything from probably 11 to 13% for some people, and they still look very close to as good as possible for them. But some people, I don't know what it is exactly. Maybe they hold more facial fat in their face. Maybe they I don't know. Um, Maybe it's their bone structure or something. But some people only look their absolute best when they go for low body fat digits, and everybody looks better at 10% than at 30%, at 13%, or even 20%. Everybody, but um, some people can pretty much get away with being at 11 to 13%, and they won't their life won't change when they go down to 10 or even 9. But for some people, their life will completely transform when going to 13, from 13% to 9%. And Jeremy Allen White is one of those people. Um, and I think that's absolutely fascinating to watch and observe. Um, because, yeah, I mean, dude, he grew up out his hair and he ties it back now, like has a flow sort of going with his curls, which look good. But the key in the aspect that changed about him is really just his really just his body fat. And um, I think that's like the number one contributor to attractiveness in 99% of people is just them getting to a lower body fat than they are. And then we can look at skincare routine. I don't know, haircuts. Haircut is actually quite a big one as well, but nothing comes close to body fat. And then you can look at haircuts, facial hair. I don't know. Um, Skincare, whatever, what have you, right? Um, and I mean, he's not skinny. He's well muscular. There's some pictures of him out, and I mean, you can look up the Kevin Klein shoot. I think for his frame, he has the perfect amount of musculature. He's like a smaller guy, um, and yeah, um, I think that's the Jeremy Allen White effect. And I think it's super interesting. I went to a lake today, and a little bunch of people were sort of naked in their bathing suits, and you could see their physiques. And for me, what stood out for me was that the guys that were at, you could tell, that were at like 13% body fat, and the guys that were at like 10% body fat, that made such a difference, because it's 3%, right? But the way your muscles look, the way you are being perceived as a gym bro, like a um, Adonis type, like a Greek physique god type, right? You won't be perceived that way when you're 13%, because you're just too. There's just too much of a layer of fat. Whereas when you have that, when you're that cut at like 10%, I think 10% is the literally the golden number, because that's where you are look best, but also you're healthiest, right? That's the most important part for me as well, is like being able to perform in and out of the gym. And at 10%, I think that's the absolute sweet spot, because if you go too much below 10, I think you start having real side effects. And 10% is, I think, the sweet spot where you can maintain. And yeah, so I'm probably at 12% right now. I used to be 11% like 2 months ago, but um, I've been having I had to go through like a diet to like rectify my skin, like a detox, and for some reason that detox made me gain like a bunch of weight. So um, yeah, and for those of you who are thinking now, okay, so how do I decrease my weight? I think there's three aspects that you need to look at. Need to look at what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat. These are the three things that you need to take care of, provided that you do resistance training 3 to 4 times a week, maybe more, like whatever floats your boat. But I would say at least 3 times a week is a minimum. And so then you burn calories by walking and bicycle and stuff like that. I wouldn't do too much cardio, honestly, because cardio just gets you hungry. It'll make going into a calorie deficit actually harder, in my experience at least. So, stay by like keep to walking and like low intensity cardio for sure. At least that's what worked best for me. And then what is important. So if you are okay with counting calories, by all means count your calories. I hate that. I can't do that. If I need to lose weight, um, I go about the other two aspects. So when you eat, what you eat, how much you eat. I don't look at how much I eat. I don't count calories. So I eat. I look at when I eat and what I eat. My diet consists of only unprocessed foods, mostly a lot of salads, but also oats, nuts, um, fruits, that kind of stuff. So I got that dialed down. It's all of my foods are low caloric, in by nature. And then I look at the second aspect, which is when I eat. I skip breakfast, so my first meal is like 12 in the morning, 12 a.m. And my last meal is 8 p.m. So I have like an 8 hour eating window. Um, I usually eat 2 meals a day, so one at 12 and one at like 7, 8. And that's pretty much it. I wouldn't, like, for example, I haven't eaten 3 meals a day in like a year or 2 years, maybe even. Um, you just don't need it. Especially like don't eat not eating in the morning is such a good practice because you just don't need the food. Whenever I've like my most productive is work is done being at like between 9 and 12 when I'm on an empty stomach and I just can't think. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the Jeremy Allen White effect.